I've got a few. Can Brisbane elevate itself to a premiership?
Yes.
I mean, they've been close, not to the grand final under Chris Fagan, but they need to go up another notch. They've got some players to be able to do it. Can coaches find a way to block the Blitzarve Stanley move, which seemed to me, it was no one got close to unblocking it in the latter half of the season. Others will potentially copy it, and we're talking about a couple of clubs, or you spoke about a couple of clubs with 2 ruckmen, so who knows what they're going to do. Can Oscar Allen revitalise the Eagles and get back to the best young forward in the game that he was about 3 years ago? There's a few gone past him again now. Can the veterans at the Eagles find a way and do a Geelong, revitalise that club? Now, Collingwood, I've read a number of times that Collingwood won't win as many close games, so therefore they're a chance to go out of the finals. Well, they may not have to win as many close games. They may not play in as many close games. They may flog more sides.
They may just win.
They may just win by 5 goals. I mean, they're going to be a better side. How can you not be a better side with the recruits they've got? So I don't have the same fears for Collingwood as others. Melbourne, well, we know how good they are when they're on song, but their ball movement has to get better. That's what unravelled.
No doubt.
People say it was their forward line. Well, that's very much a product of how the ball comes in. But that ball movement from that back half forward was too stilted, too slow. That's got to get going. And drop-in pitches, I got that written down. He didn't want to know about it, Pete, did he?
He didn't. He didn't entertain it.
No, it's got to happen. I mean, you can't build a new stadium and put a wicket in there. I mean, surely it's a multi-purpose stadium. That's an unanswerable for about 3 years when they pull that stadium down.
All right. Well, if you've got an unanswerable question for us ahead of the AFL season or ahead of any sporting season that you'd like to look at, and we can have a think about over New Year's, let us know your thoughts. 0433 98 11 16. If you want to jump on the Harcourts open line, you can do that. Mitch Cleary's going to join us a little bit later on. He's got some news out of Carlton, and they've sort of rejigged their fitness program. They're concerned about the high number of injury rates that there is at the Blues. So what have they done? We'll find out from Mitch a little bit later on. The answer is no to all of those questions, says someone texting through. Draper at Essendon, look out for him next year.
We're with him. I mean, he is potentially one of the most popular players in the competition. He's the new Max Gawn.
He's ominous.
I've
told you this. I saw him running. He looks like when Gawn came back to pre-season a couple of years ago. He looks like that.
Well, one of the highlights was the goal of the year. It was just inspirational. And, I mean, we know he's got a little bit of a clumsy kicking style, but so too did Jimmy Steins when he came out. He can sort that out. I mean, he could do anything, that bloke. Absolutely anything.
All right, a few others coming through. Will Kane Corns run a sub 2-hour, 30-minute marathon? I don't think so. I think that ship has sailed, unfortunately. Dave Warner, I hope he goes out with the glory that he deserves. Matthias Philippou to have a massive impact, says Aaron.
It says top 10. What's top 10 mean?
Well, I think top 10 in the draft. I think so.
Well, he was 10th, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was picked 10. So, anyway, we'll get to Brett shortly. Port and the Bulldogs to miss the finals next year. Cannot fit them both in. And g'day, boys. Love to know your thoughts about Warner not scoring a century for nearly 3 years. A welder's dog could see Easter. Oh, that's a good saying. I've never heard that. Brett, have you got an unanswerable question for us? Welcome to the program.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, mate. I've got 2 for you quickly. First one is, will the AFL make a change to the stand rule when players are having a shot at goal? Not around the ground, but just when they're inside 50.
Do you think they should?
One is, yes, I do. And will Phillips silence the doubter that is Kane Corns?
Yes.
And take the competition by storm?
That is an unanswerable question, Brett.
Well, he's got a few years to answer it.
He's got a lot of years to answer it, but you'd hope to see, I mean, this year was a write-off, of course, but you'd hope to see a bit more improvement, and you'd hope he plays every game or a lot of the vast majority of the game and shows us a future is there.
What about the stand rule? I'm a bit with Brett. It just seems a little bit, I don't know, it just seems too unfair. I like what it does up the ground. I like ball movement. I think that's really worked, but I think when you know a player's going to set up for a shot at goal, the stand rule, to me, shouldn't apply.
Yeah, the problem is when you bring in rule changes, though, there's the clubs and teams and coaches expose them, and then when you start having to tweak rules within rules, it makes it more difficult, doesn't it?
Pretty simple, though, isn't it? If you're inside forward 50, it's back to the old days.
Only inside 50, but don't those players use the stand rule to exploit it outside 50 because they're looking for extra distance.
Yeah, I
So
don't
if you're
mind
having
that,
a shot
though.
from 60.
You're moving the ball, that's fine. If it's outside, but I mean, we've got lines on the ground. I don't think we use them enough. The inside 50, I think the line there is capable of being used without too much confusion.
All right, this text pointing out that since 2016, the only team to back up being in a grand final was Richmond. That means it's statistically unlikely the Swans and Geelong make this year's big grand final. So 2 new grand finalists is likely and exciting. Well, that's your point when you spoke off the top of the program, how a second premiership elevates you. They're so hard to win.
Yep.
One's hard to win. Two's really hard to win. So
And back-to-back's even harder.
Oh, it is. So text those through 0433 98 11 16. We had Jake Nile on last night, Jared, and you alluded to, some inside knowledge on the column that was going to drop on the Age website today, which you mentioned, and he has written it, and it's pretty strong in the AFL. The headline of it is the AFL drops the ball on McLaughlin's successor, and basically details how the AFL have failed in being unable to find a successor for Gillon McLaughlin. He dates back to Andrew Demetrio hanging around for the Essendon drug saga, but he says that doesn't equate to Gill hanging around for the Hawthorn investigation, and that's not a reason for him to do that. He's mentioned the big consultancy firm or big recruitment firm that he's trying to find one. A lot of candidates have had one interview, but none have had two.
Wonder how much they're paying those people.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. He says it's a waste of money.
To only appoint a bloke who's in down the corridor.
Yeah, so he's mentioned the contenders, Andrew Dillon, Brendan Gale, Travis Auld, Stuart Fox, Patrick Delaney, who's the Foxtel CEO. They're the only 4 that he's sort of given a brief detailing of. He says there must be someone in place by February and it must be announced then.
Why is it a must? Why does Jake think it's a must?
I think it's just gone on for so long. I mean, this is him staying on for this amount of time was a shock to all when he mentioned that he was stepping aside. So I think he wants that succession plan in place and some certainty around who he's going to take over. So
I mean, ultimately, I think what he was hoping to do was see a number of these things out, but it may well be that the Tasmanian decision doesn't get made because the government aren't in any real hurry. I mean, the opposition, who are the same persuasion as the federal government at the present time, they're not pro tipping that sort of money into the stadium. So you're going to. There's a lot of ducks that need to get in line for that decision to be called.
He made a good point. Like he said, you may want Gill to hang around for the Hawthorn stuff and the Tassie stuff, but the new person's going to have to deal with the next crisis.
That's right.
There's always going to be the next crisis. So you may as well get them in the chair and get them settled. He also spoke about Richard Gorder, how he's just had so much faith in Gill and almost has had a backward seat, as opposed to Mike Fitzpatrick, who was a bit more demanding and pulling a few more strings than what Richard Gorder has been doing.